The way amateurs and pros see the golf swing is entirely different. I'm Tom Saguto, and I've helped millions of golfers all over the world play the best golf of their life through a simplified, body-friendly approach to the swing. And I'm going to share my story of my amateur golf days versus where I am now in my pro golf days and how different they are. And my goal with this video is to help you shortcut years of headache, frustration, and struggle and just diving into the way I see the swing now, because it is so much simpler and there's fewer moving parts, a ton fewer. Now, my story might be a lot like yours. I'm a devoted golfer. I was playing since I was 8 years old, kind of gave up the game in the interim to play some baseball, and then I played high school golf religiously, hit tons of balls. I was stuck somewhere in the 95 to 89 realm in high school, had a couple miracle rounds in the 70s. I call them miracles because I pretty much just pulled them right out of here. I don't know where they came from. Just everything felt so random. My contact was so-so. I fought a dreaded slice, and then all of a sudden I changed my swing. I fought a hook. And I thought the more I practiced, the more I devoted myself to this game, the better I'd be. Just like anything else in life. I'm a guitar player. I practice guitar all the time. Got better at guitar every time I practice it. But when it came to golf, that was not the case. I was putting in thousands of hours and getting a negative return. And my goal was to become a tour player. And I thought, well, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to play tons of golf in college too. And I'm going to be a tour player. I'm going to this awesome school. It's got launch monitor technology, PGM program, trying to be a PGA member. This is a foolproof plan. And when I got to college and I was taking lessons a lot, I was falling into the same old bad habits that I'd always been into. My game hit rock bottom my freshman year of college after practicing and hitting thousands of balls a week. I'd hit balls from after class from 1 till 5 in the afternoon. And my game wasn't getting any better. My score was only going up. What were the things that I was working on in those amateur days? Well, they're the typical things that you're seeing posted all over the world, all over the internet, in the golf magazines, and we have to talk about those things first, because these are things you were probably doing. So in my old swing, going back in my time machine in my head, I remember my old swing feeling a lot like this. Don't hit the fan. And then I remember it evolving where I would lift the club up and then I would do this and try and hit the ball. And then from the face-on view, it looks something like this. Big wraparound finish. A discombobulated mess. That's what it felt like. There was a lot of moving parts. And I put some video up on the screen to help you orchestrate what my old swing looked like. And that was the swing that was the result of all the tips I was getting and all the lessons I was getting from professionals. And we're just going to go through each little line item of this amateurish swing, because this is the swing a lot of you are learning right now. This is the swing I grew up with. This is the swing my dad grew up with. This is the swing that people have grown up with since probably the 20s. So not much has changed with regards to golf instruction. It's really been the same traditional format, and that's why the average golfer is shooting 95 still to this day, despite having the best equipment available. We're going to begin with some setup pieces. So it's set up, the first thing, the feet are straight on, and you get your knees facing inward. Now this seems logical because my feet are now parallel to my target line, and it's easy to see where I'm aligned. However, this automatically places inward pressure and stress on the knees, restricting the golf swing. it causes this knee to remain flexed. And when that knee remains flexed, this creates other variables like swaying off the ball. Because as you reach back for a bigger swing, you'll find that this restriction stops your body from turning, especially these shoulders here. So my shoulders stop here, and in an effort to create a bigger swing, because you know you've got more room to swing, you try and reach back this way. And that comes in the form of a few consequences, such as lifting the arms up and chopping down in the downswing. So one thing at the setup right there influencing the entire swing. The next thing in the setup that was a little detrimental was getting a ton of spine tilt away from the target like this. So this felt really powerful, like I'm going to launch the ball way up into the sky. However, when you set your spine too much tilted away from the target, puts more weight on this leg, restricting it once again. But tilting away like this sets up a strike that's behind the ball, so you get a lot of thin shots and fat shots. It's also causing you to swing the club too much low around your body. So, hello inside takeaway people. Where are my inside takeaway people at? Raise your hand. I was one of those people. I used to have this dreaded inside suck move, a lot of which was coming from a flawed setup in the beginning. And then some other things that were in my old setup, I'd just take my hands and put them in the middle of my stance. And this did more harm than anything. So you see my elbows are a little bit farther apart in this position. Well, this automatically sets me up to have a disconnected backswing. So with my arms in this position, my right arm is slightly out facing. As I swing back, it's going to create a flying elbow automatically. So now my arms and body are working separate from each other. So I've just shown you three things right there, and I've shown you the many variables that are coming from just those three things alone. And I haven't even talked about my swing yet. Now, in your swing, it's possible you're doing some of these things right now, and they're causing those variables. The setup is the swing. The way you set up is the way you're going to swing. It determines 95+% of your swing. So those were some very big flaws. I could go into my grip being insanely strong back in those days, and I just did a video on the right hand grip and why it's so important, but I did have a grip with my right hand more off the club under in this type of position. You could check out that video to see what I'm talking about, but this type of position, it's influencing a scoop through the hit. So it's taking away from hitting the ball solid. And it's also causing me to roll the hands in the first part of the swing real easily, so getting the club way far behind me. So just those setup variables alone have constructed a swing that is going to cause me a lot of trouble. Now we look at my swing and what was going through my head during the swing at that time. Go back in this time machine. I had a couple of thoughts, not just a couple, I had maybe 5 thoughts. My first thought was, okay, I've got to shift hard into this side and really load up into this leg for power. And then while I'm doing that, I've got to make sure this leg stays flexed, because that really creates a coiling into this side. And as I'm doing all that coiling, I'm feeling a ton of power. And as I swing back, I want to get my arms high as I can, so I'm really going to get those arms off the body. I'm not really getting any connection here. And when I start down, all of that stored coil, I think about it like I've coiled everything. So now what? I'm going to uncoil it. So my thought on the way down was just rip the hips by turning them as hard, as fast as possible. Try and get my left leg straight on the way down like Tiger Woods in his heyday in 2000. So I would take all of this resistance, lift, and I'd do this. And I'd let the arms alone and I just turn. And my downswing had this very steep, over-the-top type of look due to those things. It's really hard to hit the ball from the correct position when you have very high arms. So you get your arms that high, you then have to drop them into the slot. Now once I figured that out, I had a sixth thing to think about. So I'm going up here and I'm ripping those hips, and I'm like trying to drop the club in the slot and rip the hips. All of these things, oh, don't forget the seventh one. In the early part of my swing, remember how I talked about that takeaway being low on the inside? So one of the big teaching philosophies was to go toe up in the first part of the swing. So as I'm doing this, I'm swinging back, toe up, lifting my arms, start firing down with the hips, the face is open, and then I have to release my hands by turning my hands on the way through like this. So I'm going toe up to toe up. Ooh. I think if my body was even a supercomputer, it still couldn't hit the ball well from any of these positions. And I'm just going to briefly explain why this is overcomplicated. One, I'm coordinating too many pieces. So, club face determines the start direction of the ball. Back in those days, I thought path determined the start direction. That's what was taught to everyone. It was even in the PGA teaching manual when I was going to school. So they talked about the way the club comes into the ball is the start direction. However, launch monitors tell us that face is the start direction. So when I release my hands at varying rates, I have a different start direction every time, depending on how my timing is that day. So that means ball is going left or right, straight. We're not really sure. But because I was told to do that, I thought it was okay and I thought it was normal. Turns out it's not normal, as we're going to talk about. Some other variables that were going on, talk about the beginning of my swing. So this toe up was also encouraging me to roll my hands, get the club way off the proper path early in my swing. So the club would get low, and then I go up, and then steep and down. The second thing was that high arms piece combined with this flexed leg. So high arms, I've got to then drop the club and hit the ball. The flexed leg is causing the high arms. And the more I keep this leg flexed, something else is going on. My head is moving off the ball. So my contact with the ground is behind the ball, or having to compensate for that by shifting my weight as much as I can back towards the target in a pathetic attempt to strike the ball well. And this is all I knew. That's all I knew based on all of the information available in golf magazines. And at this point, my game got to a just complete upheaval, misery, revolution, rock bottom. It was like walking through a World War I minefield with barbed wire. All the different, I could see all of the swings out on that battlefield with all the craters and shells, and I could see all of my swings just littered on that battlefield, stuck in the barbed wire. All of the swing thoughts I tried that failed, they're just laying out there on the battlefield. And that was exactly where my head was. And all I saw was like the constant artillery of YouTube tips. It's like every night I'd be up a lot of times till 2 or 3 in the morning just staring at the screen with my eyes bloodshot and just trying out all this new artillery, all the new swing tips, just takeaway, perfect the takeaway. I'm tired of this, so I gotta fix my takeaway. Top of backswing, how do I fix my top of backswing? I'd be watching reruns of Adam Scott at the Masters 2012, that one video. I'm like, I gotta get here. That's the swing I want. And I'd never get there. But many of you, I'm sure, can relate to that feeling of just searching and wandering. I was your Class A wanderer. It doesn't get any more wandering than what I was doing. Thank goodness I played guitar, or I would have certainly just dropped out and gone on to be skilled at underwater basket weaving or something far less complicated. So let's look at the shift. How in the world did I go from this entire confusing mess, this World War I-esque golf swing approach, into the land of milk and honey where I'm teaching golf to you now, and I love hitting the ball like this, and I hit it crispy, and I hit it far and hit it straight, and I'm not even practicing much because I'm teaching. But we could still count on the ball being crispy and straight and far. What happened? Necessity breeds innovation. So I hit absolute rock bottom at the most convenient of times. I told my dad I was going to quit golf. I was done, and I was serious this time. It wasn't like the last 20 times I said I was going to quit. No, I had enough, and I was ready to just drop my clubs at the bottom of the ocean, go 1,500 miles offshore, drop them, go back inshore, and move on with my life. But he said, hey, why don't you just stick it out through your last semester, your spring semester, freshman year, and do your internship at the golf course, and then you figure out what you want to do. So we did that. I show up at the club on my internship day one, unenthusiastic. I'm just not happy to be anywhere near anything golf because my mental state with golf is so bad that golf is life. Everything is down here in the dumps. It smells bad. But I walk into the golf shop and I say, I'm just going to get through it this year. This 3 months, just get through the 3-month internship and we'll figure it out. We'll be fine. First person I run into while I'm at the shop there is the assistant pro. And I just said to him, hey, I'm at rock bottom. I'm ready to quit. Can you help me? Can you give me a lesson? And he enthusiastically said, yeah, come on out during lunch break. I'll show you some stuff. So I was like, oh, really? That's cool. Day one of my internship. So we go out on the range and he plops some balls down and he says, start hitting balls. So I, warm up and I'm doing my old swing, lift and drop and fire the hips. And after the third shot, first shot was a fade off the right, probably a slice. Second one was a pull, hook, and start and left, curve and left. The third one was another fade type shot. I hit a thin shot, a little bit heavy, somewhat okay. He just says, after that third shot, he's like, stop. And at first I thought, oh gosh, he's probably saying, man, for the love of God, get this ugly swing away from me. I thought maybe he would walk off the range first. Like who was gonna, this standoff, Clint Eastwood, and he's like, doo-doo-doo-doo. And I'm thinking, who will walk away first from this lesson? So, stop. And I was like, okay, yes, sir. And he says, I want you to just do 2 things. I'm like, really? This is the first time someone's really just spoken with authority in a golf lesson where they were just clear cut, these 2 things. Versus like, we're going to try this or try this, grasp at this. Hey, what I want you to do, maybe do this, add some more of this. It was always vague before. This is like authority. I want you to put weight forward at setup, 55%. And then I want you to keep it there throughout the entire swing. Next, and while you're doing that, I'm going to hold a stick right here, and I want you to swing under that stick. So I'm like, holy cow, this is the opposite of everything I've been taught. And you want to think about core trauma wounds for golfers? Because I was so immersed in traditional technique, I was unwilling to do those two things. I objected because that sounded a lot like stack and tilt. And stack and tilt is something that back in those days had a terrible reputation because it went so much against the grain of golf instruction that many instructors threw fits and they went out in media trashing it because it was different. Now, as a result, as a golfer, who suffered the most? The golfer. I suffered under the opinions of, and really the backlash that was unfair. I suffered under those opinions. And so I had this mindset that stack and tilt was evil. Crazy, right? It's a way of swinging the golf club. It's a system. And so I said to the pro, I was like, that sounds like stack and tilt. Because I was mad I would never do those things. I would never put my weight forward. I will never swing the club low around my body. And he said, shut up and hit the ball. So I got over the ball. I placed my weight forward. And he's got that stick really low around my body. Like just back here, I'm thinking, man, it felt like I'm going down here, but dang, it feels so wrong. And the weight forward, man, I feel like way over here. If somebody was back here, now I'm over here, I'm swinging. This feels so wrong. And I'm just ready to duff this ball. I'm ready to quit. I said, there's no way. Here we are, place this 55% weight forward, which felt like a million. I'm swinging the hands in lower, but it feels like I'm swinging them lower on my belt. And I swing. And I hit ball first and took divot. And you think about the sensation of the best golf shot you've ever hit. It was a speechless moment. It was like the time-space continuum broke, transcended it. I was floating. It was a perfect centered strike. Everything was so wrong, but the contact was so right. And I looked at the ball flight, and it was a push draw, a shot I was unfamiliar with up until this point. The ball started to my right, just 5 yards or so, and curved right back to the target and sat on that flag. And this was a 6-iron. And I remember hitting that thing around 180 yards. And it was one of the best feeling shots. I'm still remembering it today. Like it gives me a slight chill, vibrating feeling, like a warm fuzzy, just going back to that moment. And I was like, in my head, what the heck was that? So he doesn't say a word. And he just puts another ball right down. And he says, do it again. So while I'm in this complete state of shock and awe, I was like, okay, yeah, I will. I want to do that again. So get over the shot. It's got the stick there. All right, 55% weight forward. Swing under the stick. Boom! Launched another one. The same sensation. The crispiest feeling. And it was another push draw, 5 yards, right back to the target, almost landing on top of that other ball. Sorry, PXG. Almost landing on top of that other ball that I just hit. And this process repeated itself. He just put a ball down, didn't say a word, held the stick there. I kept my weight forward and I swung under the stick. Same shot again. Same shot again. Same shot again. Not only were these the most satisfying 6-irons or golf shots in general that I've hit in my entire life, they were also farther, and there was significantly less effort to hit the ball that far. So I was getting the crispiest contact I ever felt, the farthest I'd ever hit, and I did it 10 times in a row off of grass in a 5-minute span. After that 10th ball, the pro says, "All right, go back to work, lesson's over." He just walks off, and I'm there standing alone just for a few moments recollecting what just happened. You have to think about all of the traditional techniques that I had learned my entire life. I had been pre-programmed into one way of thinking about the golf swing for my entire golf journey. That includes since I was 8 years old. That includes everything my dad was teaching me. My dad was a traditional golf swing disciple, so he was really into those moves as well. And the instructors I got were very much into those things based on their interpretation of the traditional golf swing. So I was deeply entrenched in an ideology that wasn't serving me. And then the moment I switched to this approach that I thought was wrong based on my feelings, not research, not my own experience, based on feelings and based on this deep-seated belief in traditional golf, even though it wasn't serving me at all, I never thought to question it. But going against that and doing the opposite of everything I'd been taught yielded the best feeling strike of my life, and the farthest strike of my life, and 10 shots in a row. So in all that excitement, it was the longest work day ever. I got back and I had 4 hours of work before I could get out on the range and just see. I wanted to just keep this going. So after watching the clock for 4 hours, I get out on the range and I'm like, please, still be here. Please. So I set up. Nobody's here to help me this time. I stick 55% of my weight forward, and I was like, okay, we got to swing this club around our hips. That's the feeling. So just went out and I did the same thing again. And it was the same exact shot without a warm-up, without anything. I hit the same shot with the same club, and it was at that moment I was like, this has to get out. I was at absolute low, and in a span of 5 minutes plus that one awesome shot, I am now at the peak of what it feels like to play golf. I'm like, this feeling must get out. And so we're going to talk about what I thought was the enemy is actually my friend. We're going to talk about why stack and tilt saved my life in golf. And just a short story on this and what happened. In the PGA of America, to become a member, you have to pass the playing ability test, the PAT. You have to shoot a certain score on a golf course. You play 36 holes in one day. You're playing for your career, and you got to shoot 279s. Now, that seems easy to a lot of people, especially pros. For me, that was not easy because I was shooting with my old swing 89, 95, sometimes a 78, back into 85, and it was just this oscillating thing. I had missed my PAT the first time I shot like 95, 89. I missed it by big. And that was in freshman year, first one. And then the second one, I was just practicing a lot, and I ended up going like 84, 75. I missed it by one. And that 75 was a freak show. I was controlling the ball around the course, doing anything I could with my hands and just trying to manipulate things. That was a freak show. I think that was just one of those, whoosh, pulled it out, got lucky. But I went out after doing this swing, the golf course, 2 weeks after making this change. I had worked on driver and irons and things, but 2 weeks after this 5-minute lesson, I had moved back from playing the white tees at a championship US Open qualifier golf course to playing the tips. My driver distance went from 250-ish to a minimum 280 into the 300 range. I hit my first 300-yard drive, and the ball flight was this push draw, and I was having consistent contact, all from 2 keys. Weight forward, swing the club around my body, lower around my body. And so I passed the PAT the first instance I got after that lesson, my first attempt trying. And that just was a huge sigh of relief. Now, the way I view the golf swing as a pro compared to the way I viewed it as an amateur, the way I see it now is entirely different and uses a lot less moving parts. So when you look at the golf swing, you must first center everything around contact. You're no longer going to be playing the game of moving contact. We can't afford a shot back here, or we can't have the club coming to the ground in many different spots. This begins in the setup. The very first thing I did was that weight forward piece. Now, what does that even do? Well, it opens up the effortless power pathway. So I move my hips forward, I've got the weight more here. It's just a little bit, but this little bit enables me to then turn my hips, so I'm no longer restricting my body, turn my shoulders more without the feeling of restriction. It's an effortless feeling, it's an easy feeling, and it's the way the body wants to work. It's a natural move. The beauty of this weight forward, if you think about contact, this enables me to have a strike that's after the ball. Versus if I shift and sway, then I could have a roaming contact point. So we're locking down contact from the very beginning here. Weight forward, hands forward. I get my arms set. By arms set, I mean I get my elbows close together. So I'm eliminating any possibility of contact being behind the ball from the very beginning. And we build everything around contact. We don't just get set up. It's not a cute, oh yeah, I'm just going to do grip, stance, posture, alignment, I'm good to go, man. No, it's a deliberate process that happens the same way every single time to hit the same shot. Amateurs, most don't care about setup. Most just get set up. Pros have practice sessions devoted to setup alone because one little thing that's off can affect the entire swing and affect your shot. So when it comes to contact, I'm setting that weight and I'm eliminating variable from the beginning. That's that Emerson, Lake and Palmer song. And I'm doing the same thing with my arms here. I got my hands forward. Instead of centered, I got them forward. Hands forward, strike after the ball. Hands back, strike behind the ball. Simple demonstration of just how important one little variable is. Keeping the weight forward enables me to have this same contact point built in throughout the entire swing, regardless of the size of my backswing. So that club will come into the ground after the ball the same time. This brings me into the power piece. So it's great to have consistent contact. All pros do this, The best ball strikers are hitting ball first, taking a divot after it. You can't play good golf picking it around. You can't play championship golf, that's for sure. Because you've got to hit the ball on the center of the face. And the reason is simple. Distance control. This distance control, consistent distance control. Pros have to hit the ball the distance they know it needs to go to make birdies. If they're hitting it off the toe or the heel, they're losing distance. If they're hitting it too low on the face, they're losing distance. They have to hit it in this specific spot. So how do they do that? They must stay centered throughout the swing. And if anybody shifts, they have to shift back. So pros, the best players, minimize shifting. And I want you to draw your attention to Rory McIlroy now, who is becoming the most centered machine out there. You're not seeing head movement, you're seeing a very centered turn, and he's adding more weight on his front side, and he's done this more over the past few years. Best player in the world. Doesn't want to deal with variables. And who does? Pros don't want to. There's no point in introducing variables at a high level of play. If you're traveling week to week, and you're driving and you're flying and your back might feel stiff one day, or maybe you had late Chinese food the other day, you got Chinese takeout, you're at a laundromat doing your clothes, and it's this whole busy life that's going on while you're a professional golfer that's not possible with a swing that requires a lot of timing. So the way I'm seeing speed is always within the context of we add more speed while preserving contact. The way we do that is rotational. We can't do that moving back and forth. Now, this doesn't do anything for speed anyway because the golf swing is a circle. And that was one of the big breakthroughs I had in my game, getting away from sway and getting into rotation. Because once you realize the golf swing's a circle, everything is power on that circle. There's no straight line here. And someone likes to use the analogy, well, you don't throw a ball with your weight forward, Tom. Yeah, but you don't hit a golf ball like this. And a thrower doesn't have a low point. A thrower doesn't have contact to worry about. So that's an absurd argument. And even if we want to look at a thrower, this is something that Joe Madden taught me. Talks about the best throwers have the steadiest heads. Now that's something interesting because in throwing, if you're bobbing your head around, it slows down the speed of the arm. So even in something like throwing, there's an emphasis on staying centered for speed. In golf, we have a low point, so we can't afford to do this because I just showed you. So we add speed by rotating more, taking the club back more on this circle. How do you do that? Well, the way I see the golf swing is through the lens of turning the shoulders in a circle. So if you draw a circle around my shoulders right now, you're going to see those shoulders remain in that circle because that's the foundation of contact. We started here, so when I swing back, it's the same thing, just a bigger swing. As I swing my shoulders back more and more and more, I'm getting an automatic response of the body to turn more and more because everything is now interconnected here. And I want to get you into some of the finer points of the swing. And this was really the biggest eye-opener. The difference between amateur and pro thinking on the swing is in the pro world where I'm now at, there's certainty. In the amateur world, there's confusion. So when I talk about certainty of contact, we just achieve that. Turning the shoulders in a circle to achieve that. These things will happen. But how do we turn the shoulders in a circle? Well, we have to leverage 3 body moves, and these are all natural. Pause the video right now, take a breath, get out your notepad, and write these things down, and then do them with me. So contact, shoulders staying in a circle. In the golf swing, there are 3 core body moves. When I swing back, in order for me to strike the ground in the same spot every time, I have to keep my body tilted towards the ground. When I have this tilt towards the ground, I strike the ground with the club, crispy. For me to keep my body tilted down towards the ground and create power, these 3 body moves are essential. Because someone can get over the ball and just swing their arms back and flub it all day. That's not what we're doing here. Instead, we have to do the moves of tilting, turning, and extending. And they're all natural spine moves. So tilt is side bend of the spine toward the target. You can tilt in either direction. We have tilt at address. So as I swing back, for me to keep this relationship to the ball, I have to tilt in my swing, replace this that I have here with this in order to get a full backswing, keeping my relationship to the ball. The turn element, everybody's familiar with this. So if I turn my shoulders, you see my head moves a little bit to the right. If I was to just focus on turning, my head would move the most to the right, off the ball. So we can't have our head move off the ball. What's tilt doing? My head's moving what? Down and to my left. So when I do a tilt and I add the turn, you see how my head gets right back in place to where it should be. So tilting and turning. Now there's one other piece that's happening in here that's going on naturally, and our head must stay at the same level. Any head movement in either direction is going to affect your contact point on the ground. So shift my body off the ball, hitting behind the ball. Move my body too far forward, hitting too far forward. And this is all looking at the shoulders. Head down, hitting behind the ball. Head moving up, probably going to top the ball. So one piece that's going on here is called extension. Because as I tilt, my head moves down. And as I turn, my head moves right. So you see my head's a little bit lower. Now I need to add an extension to keep my head in the same place it was from setup to top of backswing. That's a piece that's very powerful, and you see it the most with the longest players. You think about DeChambeau having the most extension out there, and you look at some long drivers. The long drivers have the most extension. The biggest leverage here of that spine, that natural move. And you can tell because you look at their spine, and on the way through, they have the most extension of the spine as a result. It's not a reverse C, it's just they're actually getting their hips more forward, but their shoulders are over top of their hips, not like this so much. That puts pressure on the lower back. We don't want that. We combine those 3 moves and we get our shoulders turning in a circle. So my shoulders will turn in a circle doing this, but I don't have to think about all that. All I have to think about is moving my front shoulder under my chin. So I want you all to do this right now. Just grab a club. Maybe you don't need a club. You don't even need one. Put this shoulder under your chin. And as you're doing this, feel how this body is opening up. Hips, shoulders are turning. It's not just arms. Your body doesn't move with the arms. This is how everything in your swing is interconnected. You keep the weight forward, you move the shoulder under the chin, and a lot of pieces come together. Hip turn, shoulder turn, getting the hands under that stick. One could, dare I say, almost all your backswing, a lot of the golf swing comes together from just those 2 moves. So if you were to go out to the range tomorrow, I'd say set your weight forward, get your elbows close together, and then just go shoulder under the chin. And you would immediately start striking the ground after the ball. Well, feel weird probably because you're used to the old ways, but we're going to have to get away from those old ways that are familiar and go into the new ways, which are going to make you so much better ball striker. So we look at creating power by turning our shoulders in a circle. And that preserves contact and speed. Now, another thing you might notice here is the consistency element. So the way I viewed the old swing relied on a lot of variables like shifting back and forth for timing, rotating my hands through impact aggressively. All those variables, ball starts in many different places. Instead of that, we have eliminated almost every variable there in that equation, except for, we're talking about club face, we're talking about the swing and the path of your swing. And this one will have the biggest influence on your consistency, so turn the volume up a little bit more. I don't care if you're at the airport right now and the guy next to you is sleeping. Just turn the volume up a little bit more and put this up to your ear and really soak this in. So we tilt down towards the ground, as I mentioned. We turn our shoulders in a circle. How do we get the club to travel consistently to the ball every single time? You need the club to be on the same path back and through, back and through. And when I do this, if I have the same path, I'm going to have the same shot. So how? We must connect our arms to our body. So now the arms and the body are one, as opposed to coordinating, lifting the arms, dropping the club, and then trying to hit the ball. So by setting up with my elbows close together and I'm connecting my upper arms to my body, I don't know if a club's supposed to be like that, but getting those upper arms in as if I'm holding a glove under my armpits or attaching them to my pecs, now everything is pulled around by the shoulders. So I think about connection, and once I'm in this position, I'm going to move my left shoulder down towards the ground. And watch that, the backswing path taken care of. There's no other movements going on here with the hands or the arms. The old me would think I got to do something with the hands, arms, body. The new me realizes, the pro me says, just get this shoulder going under your chin, stay connected, there's the path. And you know what? We can take that same path again. There's the path. You know what? We can do it again. There's the path. Do you see the consistency that's developing here? Versus the old way? My old way, I could have this takeaway, or this takeaway, or this takeaway, or this takeaway, because the arms and the body are working separate. And I'm scratching my head because I'm having PTSD come up from those days. So now that everything's working together, one path, and there's the divot. One path, there's a divot after the ball. It just really brings a lot of joy to my heart because it doesn't have to be so complicated. We've been run down by so many tips and things. So much information out there. And this stuff's been around since the beginning of time. It's just physics and geometry, so it's laws. They work every time you do them. Now that we've assembled this awesome swing, you're going to have a lot of different feels. So I'm gonna just take a slight turn off of the highway. We're gonna go to the gas station, pick up some snacks, maybe some Oreos and some beef jerky and some Slim Jims. And we're going to sit down on one of those benches outside the gas station that nobody sits on. But we're going to talk about this. The way you're going to feel the golf swing, old versus new. So because the old has so many variables, you are going to sense something incredibly different in your game, and you have to be okay with trying this out for an extended period of time Not just going out tomorrow and saying, if it doesn't work after 3 balls, I'm not doing it anymore. No, that's not how this works. Yes, some of you are going to have miracle experiences like I did in that 5-minute lesson. But some of you are going to have to really work at this. Either way, just accept the reality. Pros don't expect miracles. Pros work on their game for months to years on maybe a single change. So the first one is weight forward. That little 55% that I'm nudging here is probably going to feel like this to a lot of you. And what I've noticed with my more experienced players, my more seasoned veterans, the seniors, you know who you are. If you're in your 65 to 75 and older range, you are going to be more on this side of the spectrum of feeling this. And that's just because a lot of you have gotten in the habit of being like this at setup. I'll see on the driving range, so many people standing like this with their weight back. And this is so comfy. This feels neutral to you. So you got to get here feel-wise, and that's going to put you right here where you need to be. Next thing we talk about is swinging the hands around the body. I gave you a great feel for that. If you're really used to swinging the arms high, then you have to feel like the arms are very low. So for the person who swings the arms the highest, they have to feel the arms being the lowest. If you're somewhere up here, then you have to think somewhere over here. Think about it like a chart. I've got this y-axis and this x-axis. And this y-axis is the highest possible arm position. Well, to get the opposite, we need to get here. So where's the opposite of this to here puts me here. Think of that equation. Now look at this. If I'm up here, I need to get here. So just think, double it. So if I need to get here, I'm going to go here with my feel to get here. Double your feel to get where you need to be. This applies to every golfer. Or if you're like me, you don't have friends. And the reason you don't have friends is because you love golf too much and you're a psycho because of golf. You put a club on the ground. You know, actually I'll take this is even better, driver. You stick it inside of your target line. And then you just have the hands and the club tracing that same line. So tracing that all the way to the top gives me the sensation of having the hands in. So it saves you the pain of having to find a friend when you don't have friends. And then, yeah. So, it solves that problem. Even Ben Hogan said in his book, he was very particular. He had this one drill, he said, find a friend. Now, it made me wonder for a second, and I'm sure Ben did have friends, but it was like, find a friend. It wasn't like have a friend. Like the word have a friend assumes that you have friends, but find a friend almost assumes that you don't have friends. And that's, you know, if you get to the point in this video where you heard me say this, comment below. But what do you think about that? Find a friend. Have a friend. Find a friend. If I was writing the book, I would have wrote have a friend because I wouldn't have assumed that you didn't have friends. But find a friend tells me that it's possible you have 0 friends. Or maybe it means you have 0 friends who understand golf. And Ben Hogan, being the hawk and being as into golf as he was, maybe he's coming from the same place I'm coming from where it's like, gosh, I play too much golf or I'm too much into golf where I might not have friends. Okay, so there is the weight forward, the hands part thing. And now we have the shoulders. So for many of you, you're going to be turning off the ball and shifting. Just get the front shoulder under the chin. And the feel for that, for a lot of people, is going to be this. You really got to go down with it. It's almost like the shoulder is touching the ground. get it to brush the grass as you go back. So shoulder down and in, and if I was to extend my shoulder down to the ground, it'd be like I'm brushing that thing right across the grass, trying to create a grass burn with this shoulder. What? That feels so wrong. It feels like I'm way down here. Yeah, it will. It will. You got to trust it. It's normal. Some of you may already be good though. If you're somebody, how do you know? I mean, how do you know that you have the right tilt? This is where it's great to have a system. There's no guessing here. So how do we know? Well, if you get set up to the ball and you look at my spine tilt towards the ground, if I turn my shoulders correctly and I got the right amount of tilt, the shoulders are perpendicular to the spine. So you see this T here. You have to have the correct tilted address set, and your shoulders turn perpendicular to that. So that really is the recipe for the simplest golf swing, the golf swing that took me out of my amateur ways and into my pro ways, getting out of the desert of wandering and into the land of milk and honey. It comes down to eliminating variables and unnecessary things. And pros do the same things, by the way. Pros playing on TV, long drivers hitting the ball far, we all have to leverage these things to hit the ball well. It doesn't do you any good to have the most swing speed. Let's say you could have the most swing speed shifting around. It won't even benefit you because the amount of shifting requires timing and it affects where you hit this. And to hit it far, you must hit it on the center. Becoming a master of timing takes a lot of practice, and it isn't even a guarantee. Timing is never guaranteed. The second you take a little break, you're already off. So, looking at my entire story and how I got to this point, it has been a genuine search for golf swing truth, clarity, cutting out of the mess, and all the guesswork. It has been eliminating personal struggles of not only golf swing, but body pain. The old ways were so restrictive on my young body that I even felt pain in my lower back and some in my right knee because of all the restriction. So getting out of the confusing world of guesswork, and it truly is guesswork, because I've heard so many pros say, maybe try this, or I'll be on the range listening to pros teach and they'll say, we should probably try, or it'd be a good idea to, maybe. Those are not words you should hear when you're getting a lesson. Words you should hear when you're getting a lesson are, you're doing this, we need to do this, and this will be the result. That is clarity in a game of confusion. And if you want to learn this swing system, everything I've taught in this entire video, but condensing it even further down to 1 or 2 swing thoughts, actually just 1, then check out the Crispy Contact system. I developed this based on thousands of lessons, all the people I've taught, and refining the swing down and down to its simplest bits, so that all you have to think about is execution. We set up the machine a certain way. You become a ball striking machine. We set up that machine, and then you learn to swing that machine using 2 moves, and those 2 moves are going to be 1 swing thought. And then lastly, you execute it. Because you just saw what I did today. I demonstrated with this divot board right here, which is a fantastic training aid, that I hit ball first, took a divot after it. Every time that I set my weight forward up and I swung the shoulders, keeping my weight forward. Then you saw when I shifted around, I'd hit behind it, sometimes in front of it, all over the place. So you go out there and you execute, and you're going to get the feels of the proper swing instantly. You don't need any training aids, you don't need clubs or balls. It just is an indoor drill, and then you start applying it to the range. And you start hitting great shots. Do that for 30 days. Commit to it for 30 days, and you will become a transformed golfer. You are going to get the same sensations that, Angelic. Angelic, hello. This is a wake-up call for, this is the ahas coming out. Life's just too short to be dealing with all the nonsense if you want to go jump into the ring with the traditional golf swing, it's like playing rope-a-dope. It's like going up against Muhammad Ali and you're just like, I'm trying. You're just, well, you're George Foreman and you're wailing and that's you trying to figure out the golf swing. I just kind of, and you keep trying to figure out, and all of a sudden, Muhammad Ali just goes, after a lengthy session of just rope-a-doping, the traditional golf swing just pummels you to the ground. That's you searching. We don't have to play boxing here. No, let's just get out of the ring that we shouldn't be in the first place and do proven, concrete things. The things that the pros are already doing. So thanks for tuning in today. The Crispy Contact System is in the link in the comments below, in the description below. And I'd love it for you to go through 30 days of transformation with this guided course. Have an awesome week, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video.